All right, everybody. Welcome to our honors program digital artifact presentation. So these are presentations of the final culminating projects of our honors students, whom I've had the great pleasure and honor, pun intended, of working with the past 5 weeks and seeing these presentations throughout their process. I'm really excited about their work. I'm really proud of their work. And I'm really excited for them to share it with everyone. Following the 4 pillars of the honors program, creativity and innovation, leadership, global perspective, and civic responsibility, our students have tackled 4 of the United Nations' 16 Sustainable Development Goals. I'm Dr. James Metz. I have just taken over officially as of 3 days ago, taken over leadership of the honors program. I've been teaching at UAGC for 13 years, long time in UAGC years. I am thrilled to present these students, their work, and to celebrate their achievements. We are going to begin with Team United Front, featuring Jeremy Farnsworth, Nabila Khan, Bryson Robinson, and their presentation, Biomass, a Solution for Affordable and Clean Energy Globally. And they're presenting on United Nations Goal number 7 to ensure access to affordable, reliable, sustainable, and modern energy for all. And Bryson, I can go ahead. I have your digital artifact up here on my screen, so I can go ahead and roll through it for you. Is that all right? I'm going to go ahead and share if you'll give me a second here.
Well, sir, actually, we can actually start with after the introduction, the recording, and then we can go over to the digital artifact if that's all right.
Perfect. Okay.
When Team United Front assembled, we selected our challenge of Goal 7, affordable and clean energy, because it was something that was on each of our top 3 lists we made. The development process was smooth and flowed effortlessly. We quickly learned that our team works well together and that our thoughts are aligned. Along the way to project completion, we learned that when working as a team, the process is smooth when everyone contributes and we are open to accepting feedback when given. We also learned that our project could not have been better if it had been completed by an individual team member. Teamwork made our project seem easy and come together efficiently. In the modern world, where everything relies on electricity and power, needing for a reliable energy source is debilitating. Energy research has shown that energy affects many aspects of life, including medicine, education, and work opportunities. It affects both the developing and developed countries. In developed countries, while there may be energy, it is causing harm to both humans and wildlife. Fossil fuels are the primary energy source and are responsible for global issues such as air and water pollution. The absence of an available energy source has become life-threatening in developing countries. For example, hospitals cannot provide life-saving care or store medicine without energy. In recent years, we have seen why adequate medical care is crucial all around the globe. However, the current primary energy source is causing harm to the environment and needs to be more sustainable for developing areas. A clean and affordable energy source is needed to make a change that will last and help everyone globally. The greatest starting point for affordable and renewable energy is identifying a source that is plentiful, produces a net zero rate emission of CO2, and produces high enough energy to sustain a standard 21st century quality of life. Team United Front identified that biomass meets each of these requirements and many more. Biomass is the foundation of the U.S. bioeconomy, as it is comprised of crops, agricultural and food wastes, forests, and livestock. It is the basis for thousands of bio-based products that we encounter every day, such as furniture, building materials, bioplastics, paper products, clothing, and biofuels. With peer nations such as the UK, China, and Germany showcasing biomass potential, and growing nations such as Brazil and Indonesia sustaining the majority of their energy needs from biomass. This is the solution that mankind has been waiting for.
Excellent.
Professor, thank you so much for playing that. Good evening, everyone. My name is Bryson Robinson. I am a business leadership major and participating in the honors program like all of you. I'm really excited and happy to share with you our digital artifact today. Again, just to highlight my teammates, Mr. Jeremy Farnsworth and Miss Nabila Khan were absolutely awesome throughout this process. And I'd like to, on top of sharing our digital artifact, actually talk about some of our teamwork related encounters that we've had throughout the course, because I think that team dynamics are incredibly important for success, and then also how we work together to achieve some of these greater accomplishments, such as some of these UN goals that we're going to discuss today. So first and foremost, I would like to give just a brief introduction into how this came to be. Jeremy touched on it very shortly there, but just talked about how we came together as a team and we decided to provide our top three UN goals that we either had interest in, we had past experience with, or just something that piqued our interest. Each and every one of us had this goal within our top three. And this goal is to ensure the access of affordable, reliable, sustainable, and modern energy for all. So for starters, sir, if you could just click on the start button there. We'd like to take you into the first section of our digital artifact. Nabila was responsible for creating this, and she really decided to use a very soft approach with some of like the pastel color palettes and also some of the icon usage. So hopefully that's enjoyable to look at as we go through this presentation. So for starters, USA Today states that it takes millions of years to create what we extract in oil in a matter of seconds. That should at least give you a general synopsis of how much of our energy we are going through each and every day. All right, Earth's current conditions are not even as conducive to oil replenishment as it likely was centuries ago. So imagine all of the millions and millions of gallons that we are pulling out of the earth to utilize as a primary resource for energy creation that we will never be able to get back, at least within our lifetime or within generations to come. So that leads into our part number one, which is why does energy matter? So, sir, if you could click on that why does energy matter section there. Yes, sir. Each of those are a link. Absolutely. Thank you very much. So as we get into our clean energy discussion, we must first understand what the current utilization is on average for the United States. As you can see based on the chart that we have here, you can see an increasingly steady decline from 2012 to 2019, representing the number of people in millions that do not use electricity. All right. So as we continue to produce our technology advancements continue to progress, we see a huge just decline in the number of people who are using or not using electricity. And they need this electricity to really sustain that 21st century way of life that Jeremy spoke on earlier. People tend to be very hesitant to change over to energy sources or honestly anything that challenge their current way of life. if I were to ask you for everyone in the United States to go ahead and decommission their vehicles, we're all riding horseback from now on. Many people would have an issue with that. And rightfully so. It challenges your way of life, it changes how you live your day to day. Right. So, as you can see, starting in about 2020, which is around the time when we started to hit the global pandemic, for the first time that we've seen in over a decade, that number is actually starting to increase, meaning there's more and more people who are choosing or have decided to live without electricity. Now, why is that important? That shows us that number one, the current economic benefit of utilizing electricity is not within the means that people are able to sustain. That's number one. And then number two, people are realizing, hey, I can still live a very respectful quality of life without using electricity at all, or at least the same amount of electricity that I was using prior. If we could go to the next slide, sir. Now, as we get into these possible solutions, we consistently discuss in pop culture, we discuss in environments across Congress and the Senate, and many legislative conversations about what the next energy source is going to be. Each and every renewable energy source has its downfalls. They have their pitfalls and they also have their benefits. And as we dig into biomass is no different. So there are many different options out there. And if we're speaking about what will actually get after the cause that we are pushing today, any of them will do, depending on your location, depending on what resources are available. That's going to slightly change exactly what renewable energy source is most comfortable for you, and again, what fits your quality of life the best. That will cause the least amount of shift. So, sir, if you could just click on the water faucet there. My apologies.
All right.
No, it's fine. If you could just click on the water faucet, we talk about hydropower, right? I recently went on a trip to New York doing a speaking engagement. While I was there, the team actually gave us a private tour of Niagara Falls. And we were able to see all of the efforts that New York is putting forth into hydropower, how much of New York and large regions of New York are actually powered by Niagara Falls. It was absolutely incredible, and their goal, as many organizations have now leaned into sustainable energy or just sustainability as a whole. One of their pushing front runner initiatives is to be net zero by a certain period of time. And hydropower will absolutely help you to do that, amongst many others. So, sir, we can exit out of that and actually go to the next slide. Wind power, again, that provides certain geographic benefits depending on where you are. So if you're in one of our very windy regions of the world, this would be a great option for you as well. The only issue is it's very regionally based, and it's very dependent on the amount of wind that you can generate at one time. Next. And lastly, solar. Again, the sun doesn't always shine everywhere. I recently went on a trip to the UK, and I was surprised that the entire time that I was there, we didn't get any sunlight at all. So this may not be a sustainable energy selection for our partners there, but it still is an option for some of the other countries, which we're actually going to speak about a little bit later. Next. Now, when speaking about all of those renewable energy sources, the source that we decided to really focus on is biomass. Now, if you were asking what is biomass and you didn't get enough of our discussion about this within our Tinker Spaces, just to give you a quick synopsis of it, biomass is literally using, agriculture. It's using the living things around us to turn into fuel, right? So it's turned into fuel through a process called torrefaction. And within that process, things such as bread, wood, corn, many other things can be heated in excess of 600 degrees, and it's melted down into small water repellent briquettes. And those briquettes can be stored within homes. You can use those pieces of coal or briquettes within your home to generate large amounts of steam. And that steam can then be used to power HVAC units. It can be used to power your vehicles. It can be used to power your homes. And it generates a amount of electricity that is rather equitable to what we are using with our fossil fuels that are quickly depleting, as we talked about earlier. Now, sir, if you could click the thumbs down button for me, many of the questions that we received during our Tinker Space sessions were questions about the sustainability of this option. There are two challenges that really face it. The first is exactly how much funding it will take to generate enough biomass to power the regions that we're talking about. One nation that has already proven that it can be done is Indonesia. Indonesia uses biomass currently as its primary source of energy, which we in the United States cannot say. As a matter of fact, the US currently uses about 342 million tons of biomass, which sounds like a lot, but unfortunately, that's only 5% of America's annual energy demand. And that small 5% represents 45% of all renewable energy in the United States. So, renewable energy is something that we're putting a lot of money into, but it's not yielding the same effect, unfortunately. Now, that second piece is the hit to the economy. As you know, we are going to continue to spend a lot of money on energy and energy consumption, whether it's gasoline, whether it's oil, right? Whether it's different types of lumber. The cost of lumber has gone up recently, right? And there are a lot of things that can really fall by the wayside if we continue to do that. However, the switch to biomass is not one of those solutions that solves all the problems. From one of our previous courses, we see this as a wicked problem. There's not one solution that's going to solve all of the issues that you may see. Next slide. And we talked about the net zero solution capabilities of biomass and the benefits to the environment that it poses as well. We talked a little bit about this torrefaction process earlier, but this just shows you the different capabilities on each of these. Sir, if you could just start clicking those icons to the right, it shows you the process of how we use wood pellets to build biomass and how we use that for energy consumption. Next one, sir. It also shows you how we use it for plants, not just plants, but plant waste as well, and how we can actually use crop rotation to continuously build and continuously generate that plant waste to use for biomass creation. Next slide. And then also manure. Yes. So through all of our beef creation, right, and all of the animals and livestock that we have, we can also use animal waste to create those bits of biomass that we can use for energy. Next slide. So the creative solution that we decided to come up with were feedstock farms. Now, for anyone here who's a video game fanatic, we talk about farming. For those of you who aren't, trust me, I got you. So the process of farming is really, you come to a part of the game that's really difficult to beat. Your character is not powered up enough. So what you do is you decide to go off and do some side missions. You go and explore a little bit and you gather as many resources as you can to build up your character and to make your character stronger. What we are proposing is doing that same exact concept with the entire planet. We really need to continue to feed into our buildup of the earth instead of continuously depleting it. By creating feedstock farms, we're creating environments, acres and acres of land that are strictly dedicated to creating biomass feedstock. And that is the creation of those wood pellets that you saw earlier, creation of more animal waste and also plant waste as well. By dedicating these farms and ensuring that those contributions back into the planet are being made, we can then generate our energy, but also conserve our planet at the same time, which is a win-win from a sustainability standpoint. But we did talk about the economic hit that we would potentially take by replacing biomass with some of the predecessors such as oil or lumber. All right, next slide. So in conclusion, we've talked about exactly what the sustainable energy environment looks like currently. We've talked about the severe decline of people who are actually using electricity as it stands now. We've talked about the benefits and we've talked about the potential downfalls of completely switching over to biomass. However, we want to make sure that each and every person listening to this presentation knows that this is something that can be done on a community level. We look at these big problems and we try to bite off more than we can chew at once, but this is something that we can start incredibly small and allow the word to spread of its benefits moving forward. So we thank each and every one of you for listening, and we ask that you continue to look into biomass, feedstock farming, and sustainable energy as a whole for not just your household, not just your community, not just our country, but for the world at large. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bryson. And Team United Front with Biomass Solution for Affordable and Clean Energy Globally. Incredible presentation. This and all the other presentations will be hosted in the Honors Program Learning Community probably next week. I'll have them up there. So you can take your time, walk through them, see what everyone's got, and come to your own conclusions with this great wealth of information. So really well job, team. Thank you. All right, moving along, we are going to visit with Team H2OMG, featuring Dominic Gorbanov, Kyle Mitchell, Amy Orozco, and their eco-strategic solutions, working with United Nations Sustainable Development Goal number 6, a focus on clean water for all. And I will go ahead and play Amy's video introduction.
Hello, I'm Amy Orozco. I am honored to represent Team H2OMG, and I appreciate the opportunity to share the backstory behind the creation of our artifact. During the time in the honors program, we have focused on learning about global issues that require us to engage in civic duties, develop our global perspectives, and lean into leadership skills that promote creative and innovative problem solving. Team H2OMG chose UN SDG 6, ensure availability and sustainable management of water and sanitation for all. We chose this goal because of the role clean water plays in our everyday way of life and ability to thrive. We have witnessed the interconnectedness of access to clean water, food security, and good health, and how devastating it can be to limit these essential factors to life. The development process of our digital artifact is a journey we will never forget. After selecting our challenge, we easily connected. Our first interactions through email and text messages demonstrated our commitment to creating a positive and supportive, productive team. As honors students, we share a passion for making a difference in this world, and we understand it starts with us. We aimed to develop a digital artifact that could spark creativity and problem solving in others, which we have proudly achieved. Utilizing Microsoft Sway, we integrated imagery, videos, and content design to craft a cohesive digital artifact. Over 4 weeks, our team meticulously edited and seamlessly structured the narrative to highlight the critical importance of our goal, its impacts, and actionable steps for today. Through the development process, we learned new technology, and although we had some bumps along the way, we are very fortunate to have built a camaraderie of peers to lean on. Learning and adapting to Microsoft's way was a collective effort, providing us with newfound capabilities in digital presentation design and an enhanced ability for creativity. Along the way to project completion, we discovered the value of pooling our collective talents and the advantages of concentrating on our strengths instead of our weaknesses. A week into forming our new team, we were assigned a new team member. After establishing good team synergy, the thought of getting new team members brought uncertainties. However, leaning on our leadership skills, being welcoming and inclusive, propelled our team to another level. And the saying, "many hands make light work," was reaffirmed. Establishing bonds within our team, sharing strengths and finding humor in missteps underscores the importance of effective communication and collaboration, leading to our team's success over the last 5 weeks. This experience has shown us that quickly forming effective teams and advancing through stages without conflict is not only possible, but incredibly rewarding. We hope you find our presentation motivating and informative, and it leaves you ready to act today.
All right, thank you, Amy.
Thank you, Professor Meets. If you don't mind, I'll take control, and that will allow me to just go through the presentation without pointing to you. That's okay.
Okay, I can, let's see, I'll stop sharing. And give me 1 second here. You are now co-host, so you can go ahead and share your screen.
Great. I think you all should be seeing the presentation now on your screen.
Yep.
Quick thumbs up, I think, will help me make sure that that's true. All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this evening. I appreciate the opportunity to share our presentation with you. Really, we couldn't even be here today without the contributions of all of our team. It's been a journey. It's been a wild ride and a quick 5 weeks, to say the least. So we'd love to be able to share with you how you can make a difference in clean water. SDG 6 is the UN goal to be able to ensure that we have availability and sustainable management of water and sanitation for all. We spent the last 5 weeks really digging into, as a team, why this was important to the success of just our project, but to really the livelihood of the nation and the world. Without clean water, you really cannot survive. Integrated within our presentation is a quick video that I would like to share with all of you related to the Sustainable Development Goal. In just a second.
The 6th Sustainable Development Goal concerns water and ensuring availability and sustainable management of water and sanitation for all. Perhaps obviously, SDG 6 aims to achieve universal and equitable access to safe and affordable drinking water for all by 2030. Access to clean water varies wildly. In 2017, 70% of people did have access to safe drinking water, up from 60% in 2000, and a further 20% had access to more basic services. However, over 780 million people still didn't have access to any sort of reliable drinking water. There are a few major problems still threatening water security. Currently, water pollution from the release of hazardous materials and chemicals poses considerable risk, along with untreated wastewater, which rejoins water streams without being treated and sanitized. Another problem that impacts water security also pertains to sanitation and hygiene. In many parts of the world, people don't have access to safely managed sanitation, like toilets and faucets with clean water and soap. Only 45% as of 2017 had access to such services. Also in 2017, 700 million people still practice open defecation, which is a serious hindrance to ensuring access to clean water, as well as an affront to human dignity. What's more, everywhere, but particularly in places where water is scarce, attention needs to be paid to efficient water use in the public sector, so water used in big industry and production, and the private sector, which also includes smaller agriculture. Water-related ecosystems, meaning mountains, forests, wetlands, rivers, aquifers, and lakes, are also very important to biodiversity and the general health of the planet. So by protecting our waters, we are also protecting humans and creating a more sustainable planet. The resolution of all these problems heavily relies on the establishment or increased activity of infrastructure and water management programs. More so than certain other SDGs, attaining the goals of SDG 6 requires a high degree of cooperation between nations, since the distribution of water on Earth is independent of human-fabricated national boundaries. By 2030, the UN hopes to expand international cooperation capacity so as to build support for developing countries in water and sanitation-related activities, which includes water harvesting, desalination, water efficiency, wastewater treatment, and recycling technologies. Of the countries that the UN has data for, it estimates that following current trends, 60% of countries will fall short of meeting the goal for full implementation of water and sanitation programs. These are worrying trends, but with 10 years to go to meet the goals, there is always hope that with a renewed interest, we can get even closer to meeting SDG 6, ensuring universal access to water, sanitation, and taking care of the valuable resource more generally by 2030.
As a team, we focused on sustainable water management, zeroing in on really water scarcity and conservation issues. We started off our presentation by providing all of you just a regular standard argument about why it is essential to have clean water. Really, at the end, all living things depend on water, and water is vital to life. And so without it, we cannot survive. It is essential to our way of being. So in really looking at our presentation as a whole, the focus really became, what is the key problem? What is impacting our ability to have clean, fresh water? And what can we really do about it? Who can influence change? And really, at the end of the day, we really want to make sure that you leave the presentation with actions that you can take. In 2013, a survey was conducted in which 87% of participants shared that they're ready to take action and play a role in water conservation and try to influence change in this area. Over 70% of our planet is covered in water. However, water really cannot be available to all because only 3% of that 70 is clean, fresh water. Uh-oh, it looks like I'm having some technical difficulties with my sway. Are you guys seeing that on your side?
Yeah, we are.
Let me pause for a quick second and do a quick refresh.
I have it working okay on mine. If you would like, I can go back and share.
There you go. Sorry about that. So over 70% of the planet is covered in water, and only 3% is really considered fresh and can be used to maintain life. That is a very small portion of what we have available to us. Over 2.2 million people go without fresh water. And really, at the end of the day, that's not a good thing, because that is going to grow. There is an expected growth of 25+% of people that are impacted by their ability to have clean, fresh water by 2050. What is impacting water scarcity is human action and natural causes. We tend to pollute water sources. Our construction changes natural vegetation, and we excessively withdraw more water than we really need. And really, nature is unpredictable. Climate change is a big factor here. And when the temperatures increase, that leads to a need for more water to be used for various aspects of our way of life. And with droughts and sometimes very little rainwater, it makes it challenging for us to survive. On a large scale, water is impacted by industry, population growth, inefficient water management, and that leads to low ability to be able to manage water. The water demand grows every year. Agriculture practices for homes and businesses all lead to a loss of natural water reservoirs and environmental damages. So where is the water going? Water supplies are being depleted by several different factors. Some of them include leaking and unmaintained infrastructure that leads to pollution, misuse, and really climate change. Deteriorating pipes and runoff create chemicals in the water which make it unusable, and that pollution is not something that we can continue to just have flowing into our natural water. Flooding causes contaminants that get into natural sources, and prolonged dry heat, droughts worldwide cause fresh water to become inaccessible. There's a lot of data around really water scarcity and water stress. When we look at deep diving into the data, weaved within the SWAY, our presentation here is a video that allows for a deeper insight into the data and an overview. This video will be available for all of you to refer back to. I'm not going to play it for you all here, but it does review some key aspects of the data that is available to us that helps us to understand the escalating crisis of water scarcity. Some of the key pieces is that an average US household can consume up to 350 gallons of water daily, with an average American using about 99 gallons. And that's, statistics for us locally. But the impacts of water scarcity are global. That means that global regions like the Middle East, North Africa, Sub-Saharan Africa are all projected to have mass populations living under water stress. In relations to hidden water, we just heard about hydropower in the previous presentation. Yes, hydropower is a good source of clean energy, but it's also considered a hidden water issue. It takes large amounts of water to be able to produce electricity. And so part of the issue with turning on the lights is how much water it actually takes to turn on the lights. Really, when you look at hidden water is part of all sorts of production processes, from goods and services, goods like the vehicles that you drive, goods like the toilet paper in your bathroom or the napkins that you use, all are made with water. And so there is hidden water there. In addition to that, services all have some level of water embedded within it. Medical services are one of the top services that have a high demand for water. And when we look at just other contaminants across the board, chemicals are a big contributor to our ability to have access to clean, fresh water. 71% of US cities report having higher levels of carcinogenic chemical hexavalent chromium within their water. 67% of water sources near major poultry farms contain antibiotics, which is something that, obviously is not good for all of us to ingest. Water insecurities lead to immediate health issues. Those health issues lead to loss in production, which ultimately lead to costing households anywhere between 1,350 annually in economy impacts to 8.5 billion yearly through loss of production and increased healthcare costs. Some of the main contributors to using water are large corporations. Specifically, we looked at key corporations like hotels who use lots of water in their everyday management of hotels for laundering bed sheets, towels, taking care of food and making food available. And when you think about how we behave when we go to a hotel, we often don't think about our consumption. And the amount of consumption in a hotel spikes when it comes to water by prolonged showers or just not being mindful of the amount of times you ask for your room to be serviced and new fresh sheets to be placed or new towels to be brought in. And so hotels are one of the key corporations that we see are a main contributor to using water. Golf courses are another. Over 2 million gallons of water annually are used for irrigation, ponds, and just maintenance. And so there's also a need to really look at how do golf courses give back to being more sustainable when it comes to water usage. Some golf courses have begun to reclaim water and recycle their water, using it again in their courses, which reduces the amount of fresh water that they're consuming. Sit-down restaurants go through 3,000 to 7,000 gallons of water daily, while some could use up to 25,000 gallons of water daily. Really, size of the restaurant impacts that number. Building maintenance, equipment that they use, all can lead to using fresh water. One of the things that would be beneficial when it comes to restaurants and helping to conserve water would be to not pre-pouring water. How many times have you gone to a restaurant in which you sit down and immediately they bring you a glass of water? Not using the glass and then having to wash the glass, but then also knowing that not everybody that comes into a restaurant will drink their water, and it will go to waste is one of the key factors in restaurants. So limiting that, offering water instead of pre-pouring will help make sure that we can also be more conservative in large businesses like a restaurant. Water parks are another user of water, where splash pads, slides, restrooms, food prep all lead to water use. And although many parks really look at how they can reuse their water on their rides, it really is a key user of water. So continuing to have corporations look at how they can conserve water will help our efforts in the long run. Corporations like Coca-Cola and Google both have demonstrated in their environmental sustainable action plans ways that they are trying to give back when it comes to water use. Coca-Cola has returns equivalent to the water that they use in their manufacturing, and Google has implemented water risk monetization tools to save money and reduce water usage. Companies that lower water usage and implement effective water management strategies help reduce overall operational expenses and really protect themselves from potential water shortages. Practical corporation conservation methods include implementing water audits, identifying waste and opportunities for saving, installing low flow fixtures and regular maintenance, water recycling, and drought resistant landscaping. When we think about the role government plays within water conservation, governments can play a key role by helping pass local legislation that will push corporations within local communities to think about how they're using water and implement restrictions on their water usage. Empowering the local governments and encouraging diverse investments in rural projects really does lend to supporting SDG 6 in making universal access to clean water and sanitation available for all. And legislation that includes imposing fines or implementing higher water tariffs for those that consume more water than others can help lead to people implementing and corporations implementing changes in the way that they're using their water. Imposing restrictions on commercial, industrial, and institutional properties like golf courses and campuses, enforcing water reduction practices, providing kickbacks, for example, and even leveraging AI to monitor water use is a way that legislation can help in this space. States like California are a good example of legislation that has been passed, where in 2015, an executive order was passed restricting, with restrictions to achieve a potable urban water reduction of 25%, and imposing restrictions on commercial, industrial, and institutional properties from using specific amounts of water. This is one example of a state that's already taken action, and it gives us a good roadmap to what other states potentially could do as well. Nationally, there is a current act, the Water Efficiency, Conservation, and Sustainability Act of 2022, that has been in legislation and pending approval. It hasn't quite passed yet, but this act really looks to install water efficient fixtures and appliances across the nation that can cut back on water usage by 20%, furthering the conservation efforts at a national level, in addition to what we can do at a local level. Some challenges that we face, because we all have known that it's not easy, right? These challenges that we have in front of us are not quick to solve, therefore defining them as wicked challenges. But cost to upgrading infrastructure and home improvements is a key challenge that makes people second guess them to take an action to maybe update a faucet or spend a little bit more on an energy efficient, water efficient appliance. Profit losses for businesses, navigating the legislation process, which is not an easy thing to do, and global accountability, holding others accountable to contributing to the conservation of water are all key challenges that we will face in being able to solve this problem and achieve the goal. But what are the impacts of doing nothing? More large cities are expected to experience day zero. For those of you who don't know, day zero is a critical point in where municipal water supplies are depleted. What that means is that faucets run dry. Households are rationed with the amount of water that they're able to use on a daily basis. And so imagine being told that you only have 20 gallons of water to use for the week. Imagine not being able to turn on your faucet. That's day zero. And the impacts of doing nothing, spending a day on the beach, just relaxing, really isn't a luxury that we can afford. More cities, more states will reach day zero faster than what we expect, leading many to be without water. But there are some easy daily habit changes and home improvements that people can make. For example, just closing the faucet when brushing your teeth can save you 2,344 gallons of water. Running full loads of dishwasher, dishes in your dishwasher can save you 399 gallons of water. Simple changes in shortening a shower from 8 minutes to 5 can lead to 2,930. And for those of you who love to take your 20-30 minute shower, think about the savings of just cutting back 5 more minutes to 15 or 10 minutes. Every little bit counts. So reducing your water usage really is not a heavy burden. It can come from very simple changes. And it really can come from even looking at spending $20 more, $100 more, even $200 more on that next upgrade to install WaterSense or Energy Star appliances to help save water. We talked about hydropower, right? Turning off your lights can save water. Hydroelectric and thermoelectric power are all really generated by water. And it takes a large amount to produce the electricity that we use. Looking at using your home electricity less, turning down your furnace a couple of points, turning down your air conditioner, or actually up your air conditioner a couple more degrees, and not using as much energy, all lends to the conservation of water. Fixing leaky pipes and faucet could lead to 10,000 gallons of water annually in savings. Really taking a look, for those of you who are homeowners, at your home and making sure that you're maintaining your home on an ongoing basis. When you identify and notice a leak, being quick to repair those leaks, and updating old pipes can help. One of the fun things that we learned while we were really digging in deep to how we can conserve water was in looking at installing different fixtures. A toilet with an integrated hand basin that then takes the water that you use to wash your hands, to fill the toilet, to be used to flush, are just some fun, creative ways that we found that we could save water. And so what can you do, and how can you take action? Get informed, get involved. The global water crisis is growing. 2.2 billion people today don't have access to fresh water, and that's just going to grow. Holding organized rallies is one way that you can do that. Holding your organizations and legislations accountable, looking at cleanup efforts, not overusing your own water, closing the tap, decreasing the amount of time you're spending in the shower, running full loads of laundry or your dishes in the dishwasher are all ways that you can impact the amount of water that you conserve. But ultimately, it's word of mouth, and it's spreading the information. It's making sure that your neighbor knows about this. It's making sure that your children, that your spouses, your partners all know about this challenge. And then it's staying informed. It's really making sure that as the goal comes to an achievement, hopefully by 2030, you are staying informed with those efforts that are leading us to that achievement. And that you are also looking at continuing to stay informed at what other ways you can get involved and take action.
Thank you so much, Amy, and Team Sustainable Minds. Emily, sorry, not Team Sustainable Minds, Team H2OMG. I messed it up once and I messed it up twice. Amy Orozco, Timothy Romp, Kyle Mitchell, and Dominic Gorbanov. Thank you guys so much. That was a really thorough and excellent presentation. Moving forward, Team Sustainable Minds, I'll get it right this time, with Emily Johnson, Kylie Burnett, and Antone Major. Creating Sustainable Minds for a Better Democracy. They are working with United Nations Sustainable Development Goal number 4, quality education. And Emily asked to introduce their project before she introduces the project on video.
Hi guys, so I just want to shout out to my team, Antoine and Kylie. You guys worked incredibly hard. I know we had some hardships with just kind of having to take on a little extra work with Antoine's situation, but we got it done. We did great. We communicated well. We did awesome. And I really appreciate you guys for working hard and putting in those extra hours. Thank you guys again. And for all of you listening to our presentation, I hope you enjoy it. Thank you.
Thanks, Emily. And this is just a testament to the teamwork that isn't always easy, right? This is something that we have to learn and shift and evolve and figure out how to make it work. We're all human at the end of the day. So without further ado, here is Team Sustainable Minds creating sustainable minds for a better democracy.
Malcolm X once said, "Education is our passport for the future, for tomorrow belongs to the people who prepare for it today." Our team takes on the question, is the American education system properly equipped to take on Malcolm X challenge? Hello, everyone. We are Team Sustainable Minds. Our project focuses on UN Sustainability Goal number 4 to ensure that education is inclusive and equitable and high quality, and that it promotes lifelong learning opportunities for all. Throughout history, many challenges have interfered with the equal access quality education globally. We decided to focus on our project on quality education in the United States, a historically deep-rooted issue that is detrimental to the civic duties of all citizens. Many factors play a role in the challenge of creating and maintaining an inclusive and equitable education in the United States, including immigrants, minorities, and disabled people. These groups are all susceptible to its effects. A thriving democracy relies on informed and educated citizens to achieve social and economic issues. In today's America, the federal government relies on state governments to handle the issues of quality education, including school and district funding, policies, and curriculums. However, neither has yet to make much improvement of any of those factors. We chose this issue in hopes of determining a reachable solution that will improve the quality of education in the United States. We learned through this issue that it is not just about educational funding. There are so many subtopics that have to be addressed in order for us to come to a reasonable solution. Although there are many solutions to these complex issues, most conclusions led to better funding, which is difficult to attain. However, we concluded that more federal government involvement with funding and incorporating federal policies are still an option that can help. We struggled a little bit with the technology portion, putting it together and incorporating our audio. However, we were able to develop a project that we believe pinpoints the major factors and halts the quality education and offers a visual solution. Providing more accessible quality education can help create more civic engagement, such as creating smarter voters, and lead to more equitable and successful democracy. Thank you and enjoy our presentation.
All right, and here is creating sustainable minds for a better democracy. Why does quality and equality matter in education? OECD suggests that equity and equality can go hand in hand, and reducing school failure strengthens the ability of individuals and societies to cope with recession and contribute to economic growth and social prosperity. Therefore, investing in high-quality education and equal opportunities for all from the early years of childhood until at least the end of upper secondary school is the most profitable policy. We believe that if all nations can provide more equal access to education for all, it will reduce poverty and social inequalities while creating greater economic returns.
James, somebody posted in the chat that they do have audio. It's in the bottom left-hand corner. I just wanted to, yeah, no worries. You probably couldn't see the chat while sharing.
I couldn't.
American education is in trouble. There are 4 major problems in the American education system: funding on a federal, state, and local level, the curriculum that America currently uses, diversity, poverty, and safety of our children, and immigrants and their families. Insignificant federal, state, and local education budgets. According to the American University School of Education 2020, the absence of funding on a federal, state, and local level is the #1 reason why American education lacks the equality of providing a high-quality education to students. Defining the funding problem. Currently, public schools are underfunded, especially those who reside in low-income areas. Education funding relies too heavily on state and local resources like property tax revenues. The federal government plays a relatively small and inadequate role. Funding levels vary widely across states, and districts with higher levels of poverty receive less funding per student. This pie chart compares and contrasts American education budgets to other countries around the world. For example, Iceland has one of the most successful education systems in the world and is ranked #1 by the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. Their annual report conducted in 2022 provided data that Iceland spent nearly $2,300 more on each student than the United States did. 17.8% of Iceland's total budget goes towards education, while a median of 3% is spent on education in the United States. Iceland sets the example to show other governments that educational funding should be a high priority in national budgets. This pie chart on a national level represents the 3 highest states and the 3 lowest states regarding how much money states spend per year on each child. The highest state is Alaska at $53,124 per student, while Idaho is the lowest state at $19,661 per student. Although states may have different issues that they're dealing with locally, the gap for their financial budgets and education needs to be equal so that each kid has the potential to reach their maximum success in education. The second factor in inequality comes from a source that might be overlooked by the general public, and that is altered types of curriculum that are being utilized in different states and different districts. In 2009, a group of educational experts received funding from the federal government to create what was initially known as the Common Core Standards. In 2015, President Obama and his educational cabinet showed great support and offered large economic financial kickbacks for the states that signed on to use the new Common Core Standard curriculum. The idea behind the strategy was to create new and higher standards in critical thinking and in the way students learn. The idea of the curriculum would prepare American students better for the workforce industry and engage in other responsibilities of society. Initially, the curriculum developers also thought the standards could provide a better quality education to students while closing the educational gap between other countries. Although the ambitions behind Common Core Standard had great intentions, the implementation did not go as planned. Because of the separation of federal, state, and local policies, states were able to choose whether they adapted to the new curriculum or opt out. According to the U.S. Department of Education in 2015, 41 out of 50 states chose to adopt the Common Core Standards. Of the 9 states to deny utilizing Common Core Standards, they claim that it was due to multiple concerns. Chapeau and Gass 2013 provide a few examples of the reasons states never adapted to the Common Core Standards. In Virginia, the concern was the potential increase of state budgets would go through the roof. In Texas, the public made accusations of potential party affiliation. And in states like Massachusetts, they already had higher standards than the Common Core suggested. This map provided by the Wall Street Journal in a 2015 article shows the status of states that participate in the Common Core Standards, those who have made changes, and those who have never adopted the Common Core Standards. This map clearly indicates that many states are not even utilizing the same curriculum or teaching practices. with states being allowed to decide on their curriculums, what they teach, and how they teach it, affects the quality and fairness of student education. There are currently no scholarly evidence that shows that Common Core standards have made a positive difference in US student educational performance. In fact, leading education experts say that the implementation of Common Core standard has only widened the learning gap between other students in America and other countries. Common Core standards have also affected efforts to keep teachers and supportive staffs in many public schools due to the Common Core taking extra training, personal experience, and time to implement into lesson plans. Common Core has also been a huge issue to allow parent involvement. With Common Core having a particular way of teaching and learning, parents cannot help their children with their homework at home or help them grow in individual learning. Parents are not familiar with the ways of the Common Core that it instructs. For America to be able to go forward in a more positive and equal way, the idea of educational curriculum needs to change. There needs to be more universal ways of learning so that every student is learning the same concepts.
Diversity, poverty, and safety. Educational inequality has profound effects on poverty, safety, and diversity. It perpetuates cycles of poverty by limiting job prospects and earning potential for marginalized communities. Poor educational outcomes are linked to higher crime rates and unsafe environments, while access to quality education reduces criminal activity. Additionally, educational disparities restrict the representation of marginalized groups in higher education and professional fields, stifling diversity and perpetuating social stratification.
Immigrant students and their families. Policies across the U.S. exhibit constraint in access to education for immigrant students and their families. There are enrollment barriers such as lack of proper documentation, medical clearance, absence of parents, and discrimination. Without access to school, children miss out on standard educational opportunities like reading, math, and social studies, as well as social and life skills training opportunities. Healthy development begins with early education, but it is important to consider active geographical bans that restrain immigrants from accessing higher education as well. According to Mansfield and Hernandez, for example, Alabama and South Carolina have the strictest policies on college access for undocumented youth in their state. In addition to banning access to in-state tuition and financial aid, South Carolina and Alabama also ban this population from enrolling at public post-secondary institutions within their state. Without the ability to access education, it is especially challenging for immigrants to become a functioning part of our society. Education is a civic responsibility. Access to education is essential because school attendance can increase civic participation and enhance the democratic values of students while also helping to prevent delinquency and crime. It may be simple to assume that political factors alone motivate our civic engagement and responsibility. However, a democratic society will function better when its citizens are unprejudiced, self-disciplined, dedicated to the common good, and supportive of their government, attributes that can be taught and learned through quality education. People who lack access to quality education may increasingly find themselves unable to participate effectively in society, which can be detrimental to their civic engagement and the progress of our nation.
Propose solutions to make American education accessible and equal for all. Solution 1, addressing funding and budget issues. Larkin proposed a weighted pupil formula for Alabama's public schools to address funding inequalities, calculating a base cost per student and adding weights for specific needs such as poverty, special education, and English language learners, Current funding from local, state, and federal sources, mainly derived from property taxes, leads to disparities that disproportionately affect needy districts. Implementing a weighted formula, as done in California, can promote financial equality and provide additional support for high-risk groups, ensuring resources are allocated equitably and efficiently. The main challenge is finding a sustainable funding source that avoids extra tax burdens on the middle and lower classes. Solution 2, policy reform. Addressing discrimination in education requires restoring Obama-era civil rights provisions to support school integration and enforcing anti-discrimination measures, particularly for vulnerable student groups, reinstating the 2014 discipline guidance and enhancing funding for the Office for Civil Rights would help monitor and reduce disparities exacerbated by the COVID-19 pandemic. Additionally, restoring the right to file disparate impact lawsuits as proposed by the Equity and Inclusion Enforcement Act is crucial. The main challenge is motivating policymakers to prioritize and enforce these policies despite potential political misalignments. Solution 3, bridging the gap between the curriculum. Bridging the digital divide in education is essential to ensure equitable access to quality resources and opportunities for all students. Integrating information and communication technology into education presents a significant opportunity to enhance teaching and learning experiences. However, this integration also increases organizational and management complexity, necessitating systematic changes in educational practices and policies. Successful application of digital technologies in education requires not only technical changes, but also a shift in pedagogical approaches to ensure that students become active producers rather than mere consumers of technology. A critical component of this initiative is training teachers to effectively use technology in their classrooms and convincing them to adopt these new methods. Without proper training and implementation, access to technology could be underutilized or even wasted, especially in underserved communities. The main challenge is to ensure that technology integration is meaningful and beneficial, avoiding the pitfalls of superficial adoption that fails to address deeper educational needs.
Team Sustainable Minds chosen solution.
A combined solution to address funding inequalities, discrimination, and the digital divide in education involves implementing a weighted pupil formula to ensure equitable financial distribution across school districts, alongside robust anti-discrimination policies to protect vulnerable student groups. This should be complemented by integrating information and communication technology into classrooms with comprehensive teacher training to effectively utilize these tools. Federal and state governments need to collaborate to provide sustainable funding without overburdening the middle and lower classes. And policymakers must prioritize these reforms to create an inclusive and adaptable education system. Together, these measures can create a more equitable, efficient, and technologically advanced educational landscape. In conclusion, achieving equitable access to quality education requires a multifaceted approach that addresses funding disparities, discrimination, and technological barriers. By implementing targeted funding formulas, enforcing anti-discrimination policies, and integrating ICT effectively, we can bridge educational gaps and ensure every student receives the resources and opportunities they need to succeed. It is imperative for policymakers, educators, and communities to collaborate in implementing these reforms to create a fair and inclusive educational system that prepares all students for future challenges and opportunities.
All right. Team Sustainable Minds, Emily Johnson, Kylie Burnett, and Antone Major, creating sustainable minds for a better democracy. Thank you all. And finally, we will end with Team Food Forward, Sheridith, Chastity, and Marissa. And here's Marissa, here's Chastity giving the introduction.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining me today. Our presentation focuses on Feeding Hope 2030, reducing food waste and promoting sustainable agriculture. I would like to share the backstory behind the creation of this digital artifact, why we selected this challenge, how the development process went, and what we learned along the way. The challenge of global hunger was chosen through a thoughtful proposal process by our team member, Sheridan. She presented several United Nations goals, prioritizing them in order. The first, Goal 10, reduced inequalities. The second, Goal 3, good health and well-being. And third, Goal 2, zero hunger. Each of her proposed goals stemmed from her deep passion for helping others and making a positive impact in the world. While Chastity initially had different UN goals in mind, she ultimately chose UN Goal 2, zero hunger, because this aligned the closest with her passion for children. This goal also aligned closely with our collective aim to address a fundamental and pressing issue affecting millions worldwide. At the beginning, the development process was fairly smooth. We started with clear objectives and a strong sense of purpose. However, as time went on, we encountered some challenges. Collaboration became more difficult, particularly with our digital artifact. This May has a lot of great features if you pay for the subscription, which Marissa and I did not. We were not able to collaborate on the same project at the same time, so Sheridan was able to use Marissa and I's information and place it into the final project. She was able to add really great interactive features with her subscription, including an amazing quiz that was not a small task that elevated the project greatly. Chastity, myself, was able to find an insightful TED Talk, while Marissa was able to give a real-life example of how she composts at home to eliminate food waste. Coordinating our efforts and maintaining effective communication among team members proved more challenging than anticipated. Despite these hurdles, we persevered and managed to bring our project to completion. Throughout this project, we learned valuable teamwork, communication, and project management lessons. First, we discovered the importance of establishing clear communication channels and regularly updating each other on our progress. This became crucial in overcoming challenges we faced. Second, we learned to be adaptable and flexible. When initial plans didn't go as expected, we had to adjust our strategies and find new ways to collaborate effectively. Lastly, the process reinforced our commitment to reducing global hunger. We gained a deeper understanding of the complexities of food waste and sustainable agriculture, how the education and awareness can play a pivotal role in addressing these issues. In conclusion, this project has been a very insightful journey. It allowed us to contribute to a meaningful cause and helped us grow as a team and individuals. Our presentation and the digital artifact will inspire others to join the fight against global hunger and promote sustainable practices in their communities. Thanks so much for listening.
All right. And here is Feeding Hope. I don't think we have anyone from this team in attendance as far as I can see. So I will go ahead and share through it. They have a wonderful table of contents and, oh, they do have audio. No, they don't have audio. Here's the introduction to the problem of global hunger and food waste. Imagine a world where malnutrition and hunger no longer plague people, especially vulnerable populations, including children, women, and older people, and everyone has access to nutritious food and the opportunity to thrive. This vision aligns with the United Nations Goal 2, zero hunger, a critical target to eradicate hunger and ensure food security by 2030. We can click on their interactive maps and, oh, you can click on their interactive maps when you visit this in the honors learning community, and these are hosted there. Currently, 690 million people suffer from hunger and 2 billion face food insecurity. Vulnerable groups like children, women, and the elderly face health issues and stunted development. About 1/3 of food produced, or 1.3 billion tons, is lost or wasted annually. Developed countries waste over 40% at the retail and consumer levels, while developing countries lose over 40% during post-harvest and processing stages. Reducing this waste is crucial for food security and sustainability. And there's a wonderful quiz early in this presentation that I'm not going to take for you, but you can take when you visit it in the honors learning community. It'll show you what you don't know about food waste. I know that I learned a lot from it. And that quiz is right here.
So what do you do with all of your food scraps? That was the question I asked all of you the other day, and the results did not surprise me.
Mike G. started a garden that struggled with pests and poor growth 3 years ago. He enriched the soil by composting to reduce food waste, significantly improving his garden's health and yields. He added organic waste to compost bins and used the nutrient-rich soil produced. This method transformed his garden from a small rooftop setup to a thriving 1-acre space, demonstrating the effectiveness of composting in boosting plant growth and sustainability. Benefits of gardening. Home gardening and urban agriculture can mitigate global hunger and reduce food waste by enhancing local food production and creating more resilient food systems. Composting and other food waste reduction strategies can help alleviate global hunger by repurposing food waste and making more food resources available to those in need. Reducing global hunger and food waste through a case study and real-life example by one of these very own team members, Marissa. The case study for our project is about the benefits of compost and how it can be used on veggies and other produce to create more food for people. The study found that using the compost allowed crops to grow constantly without seasons of no crop growth. Due to the growing population, the demand for food is higher. Using compost and having year-round farming helps reduce the issue of food scarcity. Here's Marissa's garden, or some radishes and the composting. Some potential obstacles and solutions are lack of knowledge and skills. The solution to that, educational resources and guides like this. Obstacle, limited space and resources. Solution, container and vertical gardening tips. Obstacle, initial cost and maintenance. Solution, access to cost-effective methods and funding. Obstacle, environmental factors and climate. Solution, tailored advice for different climates. Global hunger and food waste are critical issues affecting millions. Our campaign showed that composting and gardening reduce waste, improve soil health, lower methane emissions, and promote sustainable agriculture. The UN emphasizes that these practices are vital for achieving sustainable development and goal number 2, zero hunger. We urge you to act. Start composting, grow your food, spread the word about reducing food waste. We can create a healthier environment and sustainable future for all. So, on behalf of Team Food Forward, I would like to say congratulations and thank you. And thank you all for joining us. These are incredible presentations. This is my first time hosting the honors program, culminating experience of sharing student presentations, and I'm just really thrilled about it. So proud of everyone who did this incredible work. And thank you to all of you who showed up here today. And hopefully we'll see you around the honors community that seems to go on even after people complete the program. Mark, do you have anything to add at the end?
Nope, just wonderful job to all the teams, all the presenters. And yeah, I think this was one of our best ones yet. So thanks for hosting, James, and thanks to all the students. We'll see you at the next event.
Thanks, everybody. Take care.